Here you find yourselves again at Mastering Thought. Thanks for coming by. I'm Christina Black here with Mark Waller.
Hello.
Long time no see. It's been a couple weeks for us.
Yeah, yeah. We really can't have it this way anymore.
With skipping a week.
Yeah, too much time.
Yeah, I know. It does. I feel it now. I feel like I'm used to seeing you every Friday, and when I don't, I'm like, oh, I wonder what Mark's up to.
Well, as you know, I'm incredibly busy and have very important things to do. So,
I actually agree. I think you're teasing. But yeah, so I'm excited about today's episode. We're doing a big dive into lion and unicorn.
yeah, I think the lion and unicorn model is we have kind of neglected it.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to take this opportunity to go through it in detail. And let's see. Oh, there I am. Welcome, anybody.
Look at,
I want to invite you to like and subscribe. Now, the reason is I'm aware that I'm not riding a skateboard and I probably won't get a million followers. Maybe Christina will, but what we're trying to
I don't
do
ride
here,
skateboards. Mm-mm.
what we're trying to do is I've spent 25 years as a marriage family therapist and I've seen over 4,000 people. And I've learned some really exciting things that I want to share with people. And we'd like you to like and subscribe. We'd like you to comment also, ask questions. If you'd like to come on with us and ask questions, and please share this with your friends because honestly, we're going to talk about the lion unicorn today. And when I do couples counseling and I present this model, it's literally jaw dropping.
Hmm.
I mean, people are like, "Oh, yes, that is it," and it's an amazing experience for me to share this with people, and that's what I'm trying to do
Hmm.
here on the
Hmm.
YouTube channel. So like and
Hmm.
subscribe and do all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've never had the pleasure of being a patient of yours or a client of yours, but my husband had been for a while, and he really loved this so much. He came home and told me all about it. And that was really the beginning, I think, of us realizing how we needed to uplevel our communication and understanding of each other just flew through the roof. So, yeah, let's
I'm
tell
I'm glad
everybody.
you used the word communication because when people approach me, that's the first thing they say. We need to communicate better. We have a communication problem, and you're going to
Hmm.
see today why that happens and
Yeah.
what that and it's almost like two ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
One person speaking German and the other speaking Italian, and you're
Hmm.
going to see how that works emotionally today.
Hmm.
All right. Now, this is all based on my book, The Dance of the Lion and the Unicorn, which recently has come out as an Audible book. And so we're going to take a deep dive into the principles that are outlined in that book. And so what I'm going to do is go through a bunch of bullets and kind of explain how this model unfolds. And, Christina, have you ever heard of this term nature versus, and this phrase nature versus nurture?
Sure. Yeah, like the genetics you have having their impact on how you live versus the upbringing you had that shapes how you live.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so first of all, temperament is the nature part. And you're a mother, you've got two children. I'm sure you realize when the second child was born that child had a radically different temperament than the first child did.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So that's nature. And
Hmm.
then nurture is early childhood development. And
Hmm.
we've talked a lot about this channel, on this channel, about the limbic system, and that really is the center of early childhood development.
Okay.
So there is what happens in our conditioned mind is a combination of nature and nurture, which produce survival strategies.
Mm.
So because we're animals, we have to survive. That's our primary goal. And so because of our nature and the way we're nurtured, we develop strategies to survive, and we use those strategies in our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the keys to understanding relationships is a term called initial reaction. And initial actually is not a term, it's a phrase. But there are two dimensions to initial reaction: approach or bold, and withdrawing or inhibited. So you can see here's my clever little approach icon here. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
What am I
approach
gonna
is
do
not
with
a
this bomb?
real good idea.
Hmm.
And then here's withdraw down here.
Mm-hmm.
So so children have one of two different initial reactions. They either approach things that stimulate them or they withdraw from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So let's take a deeper look at the approach style. And as we're doing this, think of your relationship, think of your children, whatever comes to mind, because this is the key that's, kind of built into the substructure of our personalities. So
Mm-hmm.
the approach style is not fazed by new situations, people, or places.
Mm-hmm. You are who you are.
Well, the approachers don't mind you putting them in a strange situation. They will adapt immediately and so forth because, like I said,
Okay.
they're adaptable.
Right.
The downside of that is they tend to be a little impulsive.
Right.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. This approach style is associated with extroversion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I wrote the book, The Dance of the Lion and the Unicorn, I spent a long time researching Keirsey's work. He wrote a book that was a seminal work back in the 80s called Please Understand Me. Maybe it was the 90s, I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the Myers-Briggs 16 personality types. One
Mm-hmm.
of the types is introversion versus extroversion.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought when I got into this that the lions were extroverts and the unicorns were introverts, and that turned out not to be true.
Okay.
Very weird.
Hmm.
So extroversion can be a sign of somebody who's a lion, and introversion can be a sign of a unicorn, but not always, so you got to be careful.
Okay.
Now, when the approach style person goes into a new situation, their nervous system is aroused at a lower level than the other type.
Okay.
In other words, they don't get all freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're able to easily adapt to the arousal that they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say arousal, I mean the triggering of the nervous system by the new
Right.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions so far?
Um, Not yet.
Okay, so let's look at the
Yeah.
withdraw style.
Okay.
The withdrawers are timid about new experiences, not to be confused with dislike.
Mm-hmm.
They like new circumstances, but they're timid at first. They're cautious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, it's associated with introversion, but not always. And these people are not impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a cool thing when you think about it, because if you're an approacher and you're married to a withdrawer, well, one of you tends to be impulsive and one is not impulsive. That's a good match
Yeah.
because we can kind of check one another.
Mm-hmm.
They need time to adjust. And when they're in a new situation or new experience, they stay aroused at a higher level.
So explain that. Like, give me an example.
So let's say you have two children, which you do have two children, a boy and a girl.
Yeah, let's
Let's say
just
you take
say.
them into a brand new situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that brand new situation, the approacher is not phased. They're just like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
Are we
She'll
going to get to
just
ride
dive
the
in.
pony or what?
Yeah.
But the withdrawer is going to be aroused at a higher level than the approacher is, and they're going to stay aroused at that higher level for a longer period of time.
So let's just going off that pony example, let's say, because my son's more of the withdrawing style. Let's say my daughter sees it and she's all over the pony, love it, right?
Right.
And then my son sees the pony, he's like, okay, there's a pony. And then until the point I tell him, like, hey, I bought you a ticket to ride that pony. And then he cares. Like, is that kind of what you mean?
Well, it might be even that you tell him you bought a ticket and he doesn't want to get on the pony. And then
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes later, after he watches his sister ride the pony, he's ready to try.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
So he's wanting more context before he can get real excited about something.
well, and he wants time to adjust.
Okay.
There's a brand new, what the heck is a pony? This thing's gigantic. I don't want to get close to that.
Right.
And so they need time to adjust because they stay aroused at a higher level.
Okay.
And what's interesting about that, if you compare that to introversion, they may be aroused at a higher level, but if they're an introvert, you won't notice that they're aroused
Okay.
because they tend to withhold and suppress their feelings so you don't know that they're all freaked out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So the response to arousal then, and when I say arousal, this is the central nervous system being stimulated. So they withdraw, they go inside, the withdrawers go inside or inhibit a noticeable emotion or reaction. And they tend to disconnect, and their response is associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the shutting down, digestive, going inside, imploding part of the nervous system. The
I th
approachers, go ahead.
huh. Well, I think of parasympathetic as what's responsible for pulling you out of fight or flight. Like it's just a different, not pulling you out, but it's just a different nervous system than the fight or flight one.
No, no, it's not. Parasympathetic is associated with flight.
Is it really? Because I always thought of S for stress and P for peace.
Well, we could look this up because I'm
Yeah, yeah.
probably not. But parasympathetic is the digestive, turning inward, shutting down, suppressing part of the nervous system.
Okay.
The sympathetic nervous system is the explosive, expressive, outward part of the nervous system. So the
Yeah.
approachers go outside or produce a noticeable emotion or reaction. In other words, instead of disconnecting, they connect with what's happening, and it's associated with the sympathetic nervous system, which is more
Okay.
like fight. Fight is more like, you know, outwardly showing a
Right, right.
response.
You're, yeah. Okay.
So the withdrawers will disconnect from the arousal, try to suppress it, stay away from it, turn inward,
Mm-hmm.
shut down emotionally, whereas the approachers will engage.
Yeah.
It's just two ways of living in the world. That's all.
Right.
But if we go back and look this up, I'm sure we'll find there's some common ground with the way you're looking at this and the way I'm describing it.
Right. Like I know in body work, one of the signs that you're pulling someone out of a fight or flight state is that they actually start producing more saliva because their body's ready to begin digesting food as more of a priority. Whereas when you're in fight or flight, right now, like you'll have tunnel vision, your body's not really worried about digesting food because it's more about making a big like reaction or move when you need to,
That's
kind of a
exactly
thing.
what I'm trying to describe.
Okay. I guess I'm just hearing you goofy. I'm a human too.
Well, we come from two different backgrounds in looking at this, and so this is the way I
True,
look at it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I like it.
Okay, now it turns out that there's this other weird thing going on, and it's called EEG asymmetry. It's very well known in the
Mm-hmm.
literature. Now, what does that mean? What it means is imagine you've connected electrodes to people so you can see what their brain is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Approachers light up the left frontal area of the brain when they're
Mm-hmm.
aroused, and which is associated with positive emotions and fine motor movements. So they're going to, and that facilitates approach strategies. So they're going to get in, they're going to try to manipulate this somehow. They're going to feel it, they're going to touch it, they're going to, see how it works, they're going to do all this stuff. Now, there's something that's not on this bullet list. Also, when you light up the left prefrontal area, there's a type of anger that we use to break through barriers.
Oh,
And that's part of this arousal in the left prefrontal area.
interesting.
Now,
So
withdraw,
someone
huh?
who's an approacher is so someone who is an approacher is more likely to have like bursts of anger or access like a frustration anger a little bit sooner, maybe?
Yes, and they're going to use it like a tool. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to use anger like a tool to achieve an objective.
Okay.
Now, it's a defense as well, but I mean, they use anger to break through barriers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
get the hell out of my way.
Right. I've been known to get hot sometimes. Yeah, I get it. I can see that.
Withdrawers, they light up the right prefrontal area of the brain when they're aroused, which is associated with negative emotions and gross motor movements like I need to get the hell out of here right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that facilitates withdrawal strategies. So we have the approachers
Mm-hmm.
that have a light up the left front of their brain so they can approach whatever's stimulating them. The withdrawers
Mm-hmm.
light up the right prefrontal area so they can get away and
Mm-hmm.
withdraw. And
Mm-hmm.
this EEG asymmetry is very well documented in the literature.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is lions and unicorns, but it sure looks like it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because because for 25 years, every lion I've ever had in my office is complaining about their unicorn partner shutting down and trying to get away.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So temperament is nature's blueprint for relationships, which is interesting. And for the purposes of relationships, temperament can be broken down into two categories, and I call them lions and unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I feel good about
So
it.
here are some lion, huh?
I said I feel good about it.
Here are some lion characteristics then. Strength, courage, they're fighters, they roar, more pounds to the ounce. I just threw that in. They're a lone hunter. They live in prides, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
They purr when you pet them, which means they like attention. And
Mm-hmm.
if you ever had a cat,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
what is a now? This is a trick question, but what does a cat do when
Okay.
it catches a mouse?
Oh, it gives it to me as a gift.
That's right. It wants your approval. It wants you to see its accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had lots of cats over the years, and it's like, what the hell was that before you started to play with it? So this is the big thing to know about lions. They are approval seekers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because when I tell people, unicorns that I'm counseling, I don't care what they say, what they do, what the circumstances, ignore all that and just remember this. They want approval.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the secret right there
Mm-hmm.
to getting what you need from a lion. Give them approval. So let me tell you a story. I had a client. This is very interesting. I won't go into a lot of detail now. But he's a unicorn, and so every time he would come home to his fiancée, they live together, they're planning to get married. Every time he would walk in the door, he would just panic because he didn't know what the hell was going to happen next.
Mm.
Yeah, because she would get mad, and unicorns don't like conflict. They don't like it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so this time last week, he walked in the door and he said, "I'm so glad to be home. I've missed you all day long." Had an entire different experience that evening.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I was so proud of him because he got out of himself and he said this to her,
Yeah,
and then she just lit up.
totally. Yeah, who wouldn't love to hear that?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
unicorns are mythical creatures, right? They hide
Mm-hmm.
by day, they search by night. So why do I say that? Because unicorns avoid. They disappear emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a powerful horse with the tail of a lion and a sharp horn. They live in an enchanted forest called in their head somewhere. And this is the key. They want safety.
Mm-hmm.
Unicorns want to be safe. They don't like to be seen. Right now, I've got somebody I want to come on the podcast, and he's a unicorn and he doesn't want to be seen. He's struggling with
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And they flee. This is the way to understand everything there is to know about unicorns. They flee from conflict. They do not like conflict, so they avoid so they can be safe. And when you listen to them talk, you'll hear them say peace, calm, and they won't say safety necessarily, but they'll say peace and calm all the time. I just want peace.
Mm.
I just want calm. If she could just
Mm-hmm.
calm down, everything would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's her whole
Mm-hmm.
focus. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, I don't know if you ever heard of Eric Erickson, but he's a very famous uh, psychological researcher who came up with the steps of development.
Okay.
And the first stages is the right word. Eric Erickson's
Mm-hmm.
stages of development. The first stage is trust versus mistrust. So the way we ask that question is the world safe? So a little baby in their first developmental stage is to find out, is the world safe? And for unicorns, the answer is no. Lions get a pass. They go on to the next stage. And the next stage is, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting it right now. It's autonomy versus shame and doubt, I think. Anyway, for lions, the answer is yes to the first question. The next developmental question, is it okay for me to be me?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer for lions is no.
Mm.
So I think it's autonomy versus shame and doubt. And you can see shame is, am I an okay person?
Mm-hmm.
So we have these two stages of development. The unicorns ask the question, is the world safe? The answer is no. Lions ask the question, the next stage of development, okay, if the world is safe, am I okay? And the answer they get from their early childhood development is no, there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so these two things set the stage for how we manage relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So unicorns want to know, is the relationship safe for me to be? Lions want to know, if I'm in a relationship, is it okay for me to be me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago, you were talking about waking up in the morning when your kids would come into the room and you
Yeah.
automatically had this sense of inadequacy.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
this right there.
Mm-hmm.
It was programmed in
Well, I
from
mean,
that early developmental stage.
yeah, and I would say that like my mind has been really working on what do I need for that um like is it okay for me to be me? What do I need to do to get to a yes?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's interesting that it can be quite naturally a no for most or so lions.
Right, and see what's,
And I feel like I'm finally at a good place with that.
well, you've had a huge transformation in your consciousness. But imagine,
Yeah.
but imagine if your husband knows that you're asking this question all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He suddenly the relationship is not complicated anymore. He knows exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. Same thing for you. The best thing you can do in a relationship is to make it a safe place.
Mm-hmm. And I'm even thinking like a level ahead, like for my husband when he does come home, oftentimes my kids pounce all over him because they've been waiting for him all day. Right. And he actually will say, like, it does feel stressful to me. Like, I have to wait in a car for a minute and just like get ready to go inside. So maybe I can answer what I'll do later just for the show flow. But it's already making me realize, like, oh, I can change something about the home he comes to so
Right.
that he feels even safer and is more interested in walking through the door, with no fear.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
huge insight, and it tells you everything you need to know about the fundamental dynamic in the relationship.
Yeah.
He needs to walk through that door and acknowledge how special you are. And as he's doing that, you need to let him walk through the door without being threatening in any way
Yeah. Asking for stuff or whatever whenever I can.
or complaining.
Requiring him. Complaining. Yeah. I do pretty good at like having like cooked food smells in the house when he comes home, whether it's still in the oven for 10 minutes. So I know that part's very safe feeling.
All right, so let's take a look at lions versus unicorns. Now, see if you can check these yourself if that's consistent with your experience. Lions take everything personally.
Bing.
Check. They need approval.
Yep.
They want feedback.
Mm-hmm.
They seek the emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
And they, ironically, they will use anger to obtain the emotional connection.
So I don't understand that one. What do you mean?
How come you never tell me what your feelings are?
Oh, I do the thing where like, well, this problem happened. Well, why didn't you do something to get in front of that? I do totally
Right,
do that. Yeah, you're right.
right. And
Yeah.
so when we feel rejected because we're not getting the emotional connection, the rejection
Okay.
turns to anger, and which makes no sense because it's not a way of getting connected. So unicorns
Mm-hmm.
rarely see things as personal. Oops. They don't have any idea why we're so uptight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just calm
Totally.
down,
Yes.
They need a sense of control. because again, the world is not a safe place.
Yeah.
And in this case, the world is the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They want space, especially if they're introverted unicorns,
Mm-hmm.
and they will connect when it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And they will use avoidance to stop the lion's pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
So when the lion starts to pursue, they're like, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's something hidden here that's the key to something interesting. Which
Oh,
type do you think is more powerful in a relationship, the lion or the unicorn?
I would say from personal experience, before we really started understanding a lot more, that my husband was the steadier one, and he's
So,
the unicorn. But
exactly.
I don't have 4,000 people to of experience on this.
Well, no, I don't want you to feel like you're being set up, but the
Yeah,
answer
yeah,
is
no, no.
correct because
Yeah.
the lion seeks the emotional connection. So guess who
Mm-hmm.
controls the emotional connection?
Right. Well, the uni.
So the unicorn controls the emotional connection, which makes them the most powerful of the two.
Right.
And I believe in English mythology, the unicorn was actually more powerful than the lion.
They did have like the kings and queens would have unicorns on their stuff because it was like a protection for them. That was like the
Right?
number one animal to make a tapestry with.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So this is very interesting because lions tend to feel inadequate. They are always trying to be better than they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry, I misspoke. Unicorns are always trying to do something to make the lion happy.
Okay.
I'll take out the trash. I'll do the laundry. They're always trying to fix a
Mm-hmm.
problem that they perceive.
Mm-hmm.
But lions want you to be you. No performance is necessary to make them happy. They just want to connect and be there.
Mm-hmm.
And above all, they want approval.
Mm-hmm.
Unicorns want you to get off their back.
Mm-hmm.
They resist domination with all their might. They will openly fight when they feel trapped.
Mm-hmm.
But above all, they want calm and peace, which makes them feel safe.
Yeah. I don't want to steal your thunder, but I don't know if you're going to say it later, but it
Go
really made
ahead.
an impact on me when we were reading your book, that you had said that when you back a unicorn into a corner, they're the most dangerous one of all.
Right.
And um, that was a really good piece for me to understand because it's like, okay, it's not that they can't access that aggression, it's that they delay it. But once they get there, like, you better hold on tight because it's going to get crazy.
That's exactly right.
It's going to get
That's
crazy.
very true. And
Yeah.
the other thing is
Yeah.
is is lions will get angry and they'll just they'll blow off steam and then they're fine.
Yep.
Once unicorns get angry, they stay angry for a
Yeah, it's a
long
slow
time.
burn.
Yep.
Okay. Hmm. And
Okay, what do
that
we
really
got?
does make sense. That really does make sense with our story too.
Okay, so here is the dance of the lion and the unicorn. Now over here we have the lion. This is not labeled, sorry. So when the lion gets angry, the unicorn says, "Oh no, here we go again. I need to avoid the conflict." That avoidance looks like rejection and triggers the lion's shame, and they get more
Hmm.
angry, and it just goes around and around like that.
Hmm.
And that's the dance of the lion and the unicorn.
Hmm.
Now, let me make a comment about this. At this point, people understand this and they say, "Oh my God, that's exactly what we're doing." oftentimes what they'll do is they will conclude then that what they have to do is become a better lion or a better unicorn. But the
Sure.
key is, and I know you know this, is to wake up from the pattern, because these are
Mm-hmm.
unconscious patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we wake up, we step out, we just completely step out. And of course, these circles are the limbic system,
Right.
which is where all this comes from. So the idea is not to avoid less or be less angry. The idea is to wake up from the trance of being a lion or a unicorn.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm glad you put it that way too, the waking up from the trance, because I'm sure I'll save them for later, but I have a question and maybe more that I would like your perspective on as the professional.
So you're going to leave me teetering on the edge here.
Yeah, I'll just pounce like a lion would, right when I see the moment.
So the principle here is the dance of the lion and the unicorn is an unconscious pattern being controlled by the limbic system.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically it's two 5-year-olds trying to get their way,
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Right.
which leads to the next conclusion, that is, when you are emotionally reacted, that is the 5-year-old taking over.
Right.
That doesn't mean emotions are bad. That's not the point. The point is, when we get in the cycle, that means the monkey brain is in charge of the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, are there any questions
Yeah.
you want to ask?
Well, I'm just kind of thinking about the whole situation. So, I know quite a bit more about awareness now than I did 6 months ago. And
Right.
so I can see how that ties in. However, before I knew, all I had was living with the pattern that existed. I didn't really know that I had a choice.
Uh huh.
And I didn't realize that, different parts of my brain were churning out different thoughts, and I got to pick,
Mm-hmm.
which voice I listened to or none of them, and that was also still a good choice to, a good option in different scenarios. So, but I don't want to bring both worlds together yet. I like that you're kind of creating, hey, this might be an experience that you know really well, and I'd like to see how you unfold it.
Well, but see what you've done is very elegantly laid the plan out for what I do with couples. See, the first thing I do
Mm-hmm.
is I teach them the cycle and where it's coming from,
This
and
paradigm.
it just
Mm-hmm.
completely blows their mind. I mean, they know
Mm-hmm.
immediately. They know, oh my God, I'm the unicorn. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he's the lion. I see how this is working. Then what do you
Mm-hmm.
think the next thing I do is exactly what you just said. I teach them how to
Yeah, work
watch
on
their
awakening.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that was my thought too, was that with the limbic system being what is causing the lion and unicorn stance, that simply by stepping out of letting the limbic system having the control
Right.
is going to be the answer, even though for those of you listening it might seem like a weird roundabout step and you just want to solve the problem and you don't want to waste time on awareness right now because you have a conflict with your partner and you really want to get to the bottom of it. And I would encourage you highly to hang tight because this really is, as far as I've seen, the most direct step to fixing that miscommunication piece, and really just where you're not seeing eye to eye, it's more difficult to understand each other without this information. So
So you now you've done it twice, very eloquently.
thank you.
I mean, you're exactly right. So this is the concern that a lot of people have. So I present this, and now I want you to do this thought watching. And they're
Hmm.
like, well, how's that going to, I want to solve the problem. How's this going to solve the problem?
Yeah, why is me noting when I think about going to the grocery store going to help me fix my problems with my spouse
Right,
or whatever?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it takes me a while to convince people you got to listen to me and just do what I'm telling you to do
Just try it.
because this will actually solve the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes a good point that really, yes, this is the felt problem. The lion and unicorn disconnect is the felt problem, but really there's a captain steering a much bigger ship, and that's how you use your brain.
That's correct. Man,
Yeah.
I like the way
And
you just
so,
said that.
yeah, like you just realize there's something bigger at play here, and that is much more deserving of your attention, and the lion unicorn thing will become a much smaller
Right.
disconnect, and then you can keep working on it from there. But
Yeah, you have just, very elegantly stated the vision of how this all works.
sure.
Because,
Well, it's
because,
it's much easier when you've lived it.
right. Well, that's right.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. Because you've been through the process. Now you can see how the two tie together.
right.
Because we're literally being controlled by the voice in our heads as long as we believe that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice in your
Right.
head is running your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an obstacle that many people have because they can't see how becoming aware is, how doing thought watching is going to solve the lion and unicorn dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, the people who are going to actually do it, and it solves it, boom,
Mm-hmm.
just like that. So let me tell you a
Mm-hmm.
story. I had this couple that I was working. They're a great young couple, working really hard, and they're doing the thought watching, and of course, it's really hard for unicorns sometimes because they're so internal. They're just in their
Right.
heads. Anyway, so they leave the session. They go home, and she says to him, "I'd like to talk to you." And he immediately hears the voice in his head say, "She's attacking me."
Mm.
And it was the first time he had ever experienced a separation from the voice. And he thought, she's
Hmm.
not attacking me, she loves me. And
Mm-hmm.
in that instant, the whole relationship turned around
Wow, that's so cool.
because he realized that that voice had been telling him that for 10 years and he had been
Yeah.
reacting as if he was being attacked instead of talking to her.
Right.
It was massive. Just that's how fast this happens.
Yeah. Be careful who you listen to.
And what's interesting about that is to watch these people
Mm-hmm.
who go through this process and they have this awakening, they will come back to me and they will describe their own lion or their own unicorn behavior and how unproductive it was because they can see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I felt that way with my awakening is that all of a sudden I could see like exactly the character my ego was, and just like I'm very visual. My mind's eye makes a lot of pictures for me as I'm experiencing um, these types of things. But it was almost um, like this amoeba looking thing about my personality is what the amoeba stood for. And I could see this like line, this like weird shape little line that was like showing me this is where your ego kicks in and is responsible for this or that like reaction from you. And I felt like I could just see this 3D caricature of my ego, and all at once I was like, I don't need you. I don't want you. I don't like this. And it
It
was so
reminds
freeing.
it reminds me of one of my most beloved teachers, Katie Davis, who
Hmm.
was a contemporary of Eckhart Tolle. They used to travel around together
Mm.
doing seminars and stuff. Anyway, one day a person asked her if she asked Katie, do you think I have a personality disorder? And Katie said, yes, the personality itself is a disorder,
Hmm. Interesting.
and that's
Right.
what you just described.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. The personality itself is the disorder. I know. I still feel like I'm teasing that one out a little bit, but we can save it for some other
Well,
time.
you just basically described it. It's that
That
amoeba
each
little thing
character
that's
in you has different reaching traits.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me, I hope, now, even though you're very familiar with this, I hope there was something in there that added to your knowledge base as we went through that.
Yeah, I think it was easier for me to remember the bigger bullet points that felt more impacting at the time. And I'm realizing now, even with like lions getting using anger for a tool, like, oh yeah, I totally have done that. Okay, got it. And as I become a healthier person, I feel less subject to watching those things happen and come out of me. Because sometimes I do just feel like this observer, like, what's this human doing in front of me? This is, this is a lot, right? Like, I don't want to remember when my kids were like, I didn't put my shoes on. I don't want to be like, why didn't you do it earlier? I'd rather think like, okay, well, 5 minutes before we go, that's the time to think. Do I need to do shoes? Do I need to put on deodorant? Do I need to brush my teeth? Like, so just when I give you a 5 minute warning, that's the first thing I want you to do. And that was not possible for me before. It was not possible. I'd just be like, another problem? Oh my gosh, how are we ever going to get out the door? Oh. So it's so much nicer this way.
So before we leave this topic, I want to make one more point. I want to go back to the
Okay.
lion unicorn, the dance. And there's something we're going to talk about later, but I want to bring it up now. You notice how lions use anger and unicorns use avoidance.
Hmm.
If you spend much time on social media, you'll realize that these avoiders over here, especially the men, are being labeled as narcissists.
Hmm.
The angry women over here are being labeled as bipolar.
Hmm.
And neither one of those labels are fair. And eventually we will get into how we use those labels in misunderstanding what's really going on in this other person.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
just narcissist, there's only 1% of the population actually has narcissistic personality disorder.
Narcissism.
So there's
Hmm.
clearly something else
Yeah.
going on, and it's explained in the lion and unicorn model. So
Hmm.
that's just kind of a
Yeah.
teaser. Maybe that'll come up.
Yeah. And that's such a great point to say because it is like a malfunction in the person, right? Like there's damage done to a person and it kind of changes the way their brain works for the rest of their life, right? With a narcissist. And at the risk of being too vulnerable, when my husband and I were in our worst place, like he started looking in to see if I was a narcissist. And as I got better and we worked on our stuff, I was able to let go. I now realize that was like pain manifesting itself, and this pain was so big that it made me feel
Right.
like I had to have my own back because no one else will have it for me.
Right.
And after realizing, like, no, I am in a very supported place, you know, we just have some things to work out. And since then, I've been able to naturally just drop a lot of those problems that were coming from pain. So,
Right.
if you're dealing with someone in your life like that, like certainly I would just recommend like go get a counselor if you don't have one. Make sure you have support while you're working through stuff. But that doesn't mean that this person is unchangeable, possibly, right? If they get the right environment and they're motivated, um, they can make some improvements and things can get
So
better.
it's not hopeless.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a very um I can't even guess how small of a percentage of a chance that my husband and I actually made it, but I would say that in our situation, we've been able to get the right kind of help. And this and I'm really, this is not a shameless plug. Like this information that you presented here today was so paradigm shifting for us that it gave us something to grab on to and like begin to make changes and begin to see what each other is meaning with our actions and
Right.
not that we're always missing each other and it's always causing conflict. And then on the flip side, then when you get really comfortable with that information, it can turn you into the ultimate nurturer and partner for your other, your significant other. So, um, yeah, it was good. It's good.
Yeah, which is spiritually the
Never been
reason why you
better.
were together to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Right. And you see people who will get divorced and end up marrying someone similar-ish, right? And get back into a similar paradigm.
Same
And
pattern.
yeah, sometimes that's what it takes for them to realize, like, oh, it wasn't just the other person. This is just something
Right.
that happens in my relationships or whatever. And
So
then
I really liked
something
what
with
you
that
said. As a
end.
matter of fact, you hit about 3 home runs today, and what you said,
Wow.
I really appreciate it.
Babe Ruth.
But yeah, for sure, seek counseling if something in what we've talked about today is kind of harmonized with you, sort of resonated. Feel free to reach out in the comments. You can
Hmm.
also send us. Let's see here. I don't know if I've got it set up today, but you can send us an email at Christina at masteringthought.com or Mark at masteringthought.com. If you'd like to come on and share some of your experiences, we'd love to talk to you about that. We're really just trying to spread the word to make people's lives better. That's
Hmm.
what
For
we're trying
sure.
to do here. So there's no
Yeah.
catchy
And
phrases.
always on the search for a brave unicorn.
Yeah. So
I know it's
if you've
harder
got
for
some
you.
issues you'd like to talk about, let us know.
Hmm. For sure.
All
Yeah.
right.
We'll
So I
keep
want to plug
talking.
my books. As I said before, there's the Dance the Lion and Unicorn. Mastering Thought is about this thought watching exercise we talked about.
Hmm.
And Awakening is like the sequel to the Dance of the Lion and Unicorn. So those of you who read the dance and you're familiar with Pat and Angie and their struggles and their triumphs, as soon as you open Awakening, you'll realize they're back and you'll see what happens to
Hmm.
them. And of course, the Dance the Lion Unicorn is on Audible, and we encourage you to check it out.
Yeah. Which one are you going to have recorded next?
I think I'm gonna do Awakening next.
Okay.
Uh, I think, and I'm gonna have I believe I have the same narrator do it.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, I think I'm gonna do that one next because when I went back to start reading it over again, I realized, oh crap, I wrote this as a sequel.
Ah.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
I know that.
It's just been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy. So I
That's
think I'll
funny.
do the Awakening next,
Okay.
and then finally I'll have the Mastering Thought done.
Cool. Yeah.
All right.
Exciting. All right. All right, everybody, go get your copy of whichever one appeals to you. Let's grow together.
Thanks so much, Christina.
Hey, thanks for your time too, Mark.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.